Hey 605D, it's Dr. Zitzmann. I'm here to talk a little bit about questions that are coming up regarding the biopsychosocial part 2. So to do that, I'm going to share my screen as always. So we'll go to the general desktop here and I'll bring this over first of all. Now this is a review of the assignment in general. So you're going to not be redescribing your client. You are using the same client from your first paper. Here, though, you're going to start telling me about the client's case using a theory. You're then going to think through the way that the theory connects to the treatment plan that you're making. You're going to lay out a very specific treatment plan, the intervention plan, and this is what we're going to spend our time talking about. And then you'll also talk through the logistics of termination, how you might end your work with this client. Okay, so I provided this tool on Blackboard, which I created for 605 on campus. I find it helpful to keep us organized. You don't have to use it, but again, I think it is a nice tool for thinking through that intervention plan. So first of all, you might start by saying, what's going on, right, with this client? And there could be a lot going on. So here we're just practicing partializing, which means taking one problem at a time and breaking it down into its subparts. So this is a skill to be learned because clients' lives are complex. So I want you to learn this skill of bringing things down and simplifying and focusing on one issue at a time. So in this example that I'm offering, perhaps our problem is major depressive episode. Now we might know that this client is experiencing depression because, let's say they were recently diagnosed with cancer. That brings up a whole world of other things that might be going on, but for the sake of what we're doing here, we're focusing on the major depressive episode. How do I know that my client's experiencing depression? Well, they're reporting to me this sense of apathy and low energy. They tell me that they're having thoughts of worthlessness, hypersomnia, they're sleeping all the time, and social disconnection. They're withdrawing from their friends and family. So we went from here's the big problem to here are the ways that I know this problem is happening, all right? Evidence of the problem. Now I come down here, that's step one, that's step two. I come down here and I just copy and paste the same problems. Okay, so the problem, major depressive episode. And the evidence of the problem, all four of these, I just pasted down here in step 4 into evidence of the problem. Copy paste, same thing. Okay, so the goal statement is a very large, it's a broad kind of global thing, just like major depression is the big issue here. Okay, so major depression, so the goal statement would be we want to get them out of major depression, right? We want to treat this depressive episode. So to flip that into a positive term, instead of get rid of depression, we would say regulate mood, reestablish euthymia. So you're taking the problem and you're just flipping it into a positive statement. Okay, this is where we're going. This is the goal. Now, the evidence of the problem that the client helped you to identify, you can then flip that into the objectives. So again, when we start with big problems and large goals, then we start kind of getting into more nuance regarding the evidence of those problems. Objectives are almost like the evidence that we're working towards the goal. So, and again, I think of it as almost like mirroring. So we're going from one to the other, one to the other. So if evidence is apathy and low energy, then we would want to increase energy levels. Thoughts of worthlessness becomes decreasing thoughts of worthlessness. Hypersomnia becomes reducing sleep time. You might also say establishing 6 to 8 hours of routine sleep, something like that. Social disconnection becomes increasing social connection. So you can see how you're mirroring. Now, this is a skill that trips up students. So the grid is meant to be here to help you kind of think through where are we going? How are we mapping what the client's saying to what we want to be working on? Now down here, I have step 5 to be to think about theory, all right? I personally love social cognitive learning theory, so I pulled that. I think it explains what's going on nicely here. That's Bandura. So you can go back to your class 571, Hebsey, Theories of Human Behavior, and look at those theories again. So theories might include like cognitive theory, behavioral theory, social cognitive learning theory, any of the psychodynamic theories, attachment theory, self-psychology. So you can go to sort of any of those major theories that were reviewed in 571. Okay, so here I have social cognitive learning theory. What are some key concepts? So I've pulled out two. Triadic reciprocal determination, remember that from the Walsh book, and self-regulation. Triadic reciprocal determination tells me that these three, this triad of thoughts, behaviors, and environment, influence one another, and as one changes, the others might change also. All right. Self-regulation requires self-monitoring and intentional adjustment to thoughts and behaviors. So that's how change happens according to this theory. And of course, you can kind of unpack that a little bit more. The literature review here is really to think about, are there evidence-based articles in peer-reviewed journals that you can find regarding depression? You might want to get very specific about populations and whatnot that that the literature might dovetail to your particular client. Okay, so then we come down here. So again, I just went straight up to, what was our goal? Our goal was right here, and boom, plopped it right into here, regulate mood. Now, with the SMART objectives, I came up here and I took our 4 objectives that we had sketched out, and I put them here, but because I want them in a SMART format, I started with them, and then I started to make them more specific, more time-oriented, more measurable than what we had above. So instead of just increasing levels of energy, I said, well, let's measure this by having the client scale their energy levels on a scale of 1 to 5 for the next 2 weeks. And our the aim here would be to move the client from saying that they have a 2 on a 5 level of energy to move them to having 3 on a 5 level of energy. Okay. Here, decreasing thoughts of worthlessness. I kind of expanded this and said we're going to decrease daily thoughts of worthlessness from lasting 30 to 60 minutes, that's what the client's telling us, to lasting only 5 minutes. So here, we're not trying to just completely get rid of thoughts of worthlessness. That might be the long term. But for now, what's more realistic is to say we're going to minimize, we're going to help the client reduce the amount of time that they're spending in this ruminating about their worthlessness. Okay. 3, reducing sleep time. They were reporting hypersomnia. Okay. So we're going to implement a sleep routine that they're going to use every night over the next week until they see you again. Increase social connections. They said that they were withdrawing from people. They were socially isolating. So here we're going to have them increase social connections by reaching out to 3 different friends or family members at least 1 time each in the next week. Okay, you see how we became much more measurable, time-oriented, realistic, all those things. Okay, so again, going kind of across here, we might have them as a task. We want them to start maintaining a daily energy level log by recording what is your energy level. Scale of 1 to 5, what is your energy level morning, noon, and night, on that scale of 1 to 5. Recognizing daily thoughts of worthlessness and wanting to reduce the time we spend there. So the task might be that you work with them to recognize when those thoughts of worthlessness arise, and then we're going to journal the thought, write out what is the thought that's occurring right now, and then also write out a more realistic, accurate, self-affirming self-statement. Okay, so that there's a few different skills in there that you can kind of break down even further, but you're going to have the client monitor, which is part of self-regulation, right? They're going to monitor when they notice these thoughts happening, and they're going to do something different than just staying with them. They're going to write them down, and they're going to write another statement after about a self-affirmation. Reducing sleep time. by implementing a sleep routine nightly. So you might work with them to do something like set an alarm on your phone that tells you when you have 30 minutes before you go to sleep. And because hypersomnia is the problem, then what we want to do is make sure they don't go to sleep before that alarm goes off. So maybe they want to be asleep around 10 o'clock at night. Fine. Have an alarm that goes off at 9:30 that says, okay, this is the time period when you can begin putting your pajamas on and brushing your teeth and getting ready to go to sleep. Before this alarm goes off, if you're tempted to go to sleep, we want to find a list. We want you to be doing something else. So another task you might do would be to identify a list of safe and pleasurable activities that they might do. Make yourself a cup of tea. Call the friend that you said you were going to call and reach out to. Watch something fun and enjoyable on Netflix. Read a book. Color something. Make artwork. Do some arts and crafts. Whatever, that, as long as it's safe, right? We don't want them to engage in anything that could be self-harmful, obviously. Okay, so that can be another task that you do, though, is to find and generate a list of pleasurable activities. Okay, lastly, increase social connections by reaching out to the 3 different family members or friends at least once in the next week. So what you could do with them in session is, let's identify who do we want to reach out to? Like, who are the people in your world who are going to be the most affirming of you, who are going to meet you where you are, who are not going to judge you? Let's at least identify the 3 people that you would want to reach out to. Okay. The other thing that I want my client to do is not only to reach out to them, but I want them to begin becoming aware. I want them to notice what it feels like before, during, and after that contact. So anytime they reach out to their person, I want them, they can either scale their mood, they can describe it a little bit, but I want them to, this is again kind of going into the self-regulation of that Bandura talks about, where you have to become aware in order to recognize, okay, I reached out to so-and-so and it was really good. It felt very good to talk to her. Check. I'm going to do that again. Or, gosh, I reached out to my mother and it was not at all supportive and helpful, so I will not do that again. Okay, that's fine. We've learned something, but you're increasing that skill and regulation. Now, ultimately, again, the big goal is to regulate the mood, is to get them out of this depressive episode. And as you can see, we've really broken down into a lot of kind of smaller bite-sized pieces. So you, as the person working with them, have to hold this tension in your own mind of, here's kind of the general direction of where we're going, and here's kind of the small working pieces, the little steps that get us to that bigger goal. So I hope that that is helpful, and feel free, like I said, to use this template. You can use it directly and attach it to your paper, but ultimately I need you to write your paper up in written format for sure, whether or not you use this template. All right, be in touch if you have questions. Otherwise, I hope this has been helpful. Thanks.